What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we're going to be ranking the Battle Masters. That's right, Battle Masters are fun. They are characters in the Transformers trading card game, with one exception. They're little cards. Well, they're kind of regular size, they're battle card size, and they have no ult mode. They can't transform until they're KO'd, at which point they transform into an upgrade that you attach, and life is good. Some of these are wonderful, and to be fair, there's a really obvious number one. And some of them are nowhere near as good, and that, ladies and gentlemen, that is when we end up doing a ranking. Let's do a ranking. In at number 8, we've got Raider Nightstick. Now, Raider Nightstick starts off as a bot, and we've got 2 attacks, 6 health, 1 defense. It's fine. I mean, it is a 6 cost, so it's cheaper than some of the ones on this list, but there's nothing about the stats which are particularly special. Now, it is a specialist, which means you can pop it in a specialist deck, use stuff like Field Communicator, etc., which I do like. It is, in fact, like my favourite thing about the card, is the fact that it's a nice, cheap specialist. Having said that, Flame War is an even cheaper specialist, and just an out-and-out better card. So is RC. Yeah, that doesn't give us a compelling reason to play it, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when it's KO'd, it turns into Black Beam Blaster. Now, I love it for the alliteration, but I don't think it distinguishes itself enough to really justify being a 6-star Battle Master. Now, the +2 attack, +1 defense is nice. It's what we see on Ion Blaster of Optimus Prime. But then again, Ion Blaster of Optimus Prime isn't even a star card, though it is for Optimus Prime only. And then if you flip 2 black icons, your opponent chooses a card from their hand and scraps it. You don't get a choice. It's not random. Your opponent gets to choose which card they scrap. So even if you hit the double black icon, it's not that great. No, I don't have a huge amount of love for Raider Nightstick. And similarly, in at number 7, Raider Blowpipe. And honestly, these are my 2 least favourite of the Battle Masters. If you want to switch the order around, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to be terribly upset. We've got Health of 7, which is, I suppose, better than a lot of the Battle Masters. And it is a 5-star character, so it is nice and cheap. And it actually does have a skill, Focus 1. Now, Focus 1 here is alright. It means that when you're attacking or defending, you may look at the top card of your deck and scrap it if you don't like it. So that's alright. That's not terrible. But then again, you got an attack of 2 and a defensive 1. It's not like you're some huge battler here. And to be fair, you are a ranged character, so you can get some cheeky damage going on using armed hovercraft or using marksmanship if you really want. It's not a terrible use of the card. Yeah. And then when it turns into an upgrade and you attack and flick your battle cards, you get +1 attack until end of turn for each different colour you flip. Well, you've got to flip 2 different colours just to turn it into a +2 attack. And +2 attack isn't exactly particularly impressive. It's not like we see +2 attack and we go, whoa, that's amazing. Now, the potential here is what really puts it up at number 7, because we do have multiple different types of icons. We're up to 5 different colours of icons, which means you can get +5 attack here, and +5 attack is great. That's better than Grenade Launcher. But it's, come on, it's just awkward. I'm not saying it's terrible and it's never going to see play, but I'm telling you it's too awkward for me to take it that seriously. In at number 6, we've got Private Smashdown, or as a lot of us know it, hey, it's that one what you could get as a promo. Starting off in bot mode, you got 262. It's not a particularly impressive stat line. Though it is a melee character, so you do have access to Power Sword and Body Armor if that's what you're into. But when it gets KO'd, it turns into Airquake Hammerclaw. Now, this says that when the upgraded character attacks, and you flip more colours of battle icons than your opponent, then you get +2 attack until end of battle. Now, you start with +2 attack, And really here, if you build a deck around this, if you build a deck to take account of this, you've got +4 attack. And +4 attack's pretty good. +4 attack's grenade launcher. And you've only got to flip more colours than your opponent. And most, not all, but most decks go generally for orange or blue, and they'll play a few white in there. And yeah, there'll be the odd green in decks, and some decks like to go blue and black for Pierce. But really, most of the time, if you can flip 3 different battle icons, you'll be fine. So if you play a mixed deck of orange, blue with some white in, most of the time you should flip more than your opponent here. That's why it gets in at number 6. But to be clear, these bottom 3 are my bottom 3, and I'm not going to be upset if you flick the order around. Now, in at number 5, Sergeant Cog. And yes, I know he's not technically a Battle Master. He is a Weaponizer. But ranking all the characters that have a bot mode but no alt mode but can't transform, but when it gets KO'd, instead of going to the KO area, it turns into an upgrade that attaches to one of your characters, which, if it's removed, goes to the KO area, just isn't very snappy. So yes, I know he's technically not a Battle Master, but to all intents and purposes, he performs the same function, so he needs to be on the list. Now, having said all of that, he's not a Battle Master, and that is really important for the card Quartermaster. Quartermaster is a really good card that lets you either move an upgrade from one of your characters to another one, no one cares, or put a Battle Master from your KO area onto one of your characters. It lets you reuse your Battle Masters, which is huge. It instantly makes all Battle Masters better, and the key thing here is you cannot use this to reuse Sergeant Cog. And Sergeant Cog is a 10 cost. And essentially therein lie the 2 reasons why Cog doesn't get higher up the list. Because make no mistake about it, Cog's a really good card. A stat line of 4, 12, 1 is, I'm going to be honest, it's actually kind of low for a 10-star character, but it's alright. It at least makes it a viable attacker, a really viable character in a way that the Battle Masters just cannot claim. But also, it's a ranged character, we've talked about that. But it's phenomenal. +4 attack, and when you put it on a character, you draw a card for each character on the battlefield, and you may play an upgrade onto each of your characters. So you've already got the +4 attack. And if you look at the characters we've seen so far, Private Smashdown gives you +4 if you flip more colours than your opponent. Well, that's not particularly ideal. Blowpipe gives you +4 attack if you can flip 4 different colours of icons. This gives you +4 and lets you draw a card for each of your other characters and lets you play an extra upgrade. I mean, you're probably not playing this in more than a 3-wide. You could go 4-wide, but you're probably not. But it gives you +4 attack, draws 2 cards, and allows you to attach 2 extra upgrades. That's pretty phenomenal. But the cost and the fact that it can't be used with Quartermaster unfortunately leave it down at number 5. In at number 4, my personal favourite card on the list, now I do agree that it's not the best, Private Pteraxadon. I adore Private Pteraxadon. Now, it is a 6 cost, and it's got 9 health, which you've noticed, hopefully, is good compared to most of the cards on this list. But, and it is a big but, unfortunately you have 0 defense. That's a bit of a problem. Although the free attack is again pretty good. It's a melee character, so you've got power sword and body armor, which is nice. But it gives you +3 attack, which as we've seen is better than most, just a straight +3. And if you flip at least 2 white icons, the defender's base defense becomes 0. Now, they still get to count all of their blue icons, but if you're not playing a blue deck here, then essentially all your opponent's characters have a defense of 0. So you don't need to worry. You can play this in a deck that's not that focused on orange icons, because you don't need to focus on raising your attack, because you're always doing damage equal to your attack, basically. Against a non-blue deck, it's not that far off all your characters being arsey, because your opponents have no defense. Now, against a blue deck, they get all their blue icons. You're still lowering their defense, but against a deck that isn't blue, that's aggressive, etc., this is flat out phenomenal, and I love it. But you've got to flip 2 white icons, which makes it a very niche use card. It's not an easy card to actually get rolling because you've got to flip the double white icons. In some decks that are focused on white icons, and there's a whole bunch of cards out there like Wave 1 Jazz that will be focused on the white icons, yes, I love it. But it's not for every deck, so although it's my personal favourite, I don't think I can justify putting it higher than number 4. In at number 3, we've got Private Firedrive. And I think this is the start of the really good Battle Masters. I think this is where we start doing a bit of the old, ooh, that's nice. Now, 7 cost is slightly higher than a lot of them. 10 health is good, but the 0 defense hurts. It's a range character, so armed, hovercraft, marksmanship, all that jazz. But when it is KO'd and turned into an upgrade, you get +3 attack. And as we've discussed, +3 attack is pretty good. But when you attack, you scrap any number of cards from your hand, and for each one scrapped this way, you get +1 attack until end of turn. So, what you're doing here is costing yourself the card advantage. You are potentially putting yourself down to a 0 card hand. But bearing in mind, we're not at the beginning of the game. When your Battle Masters have turned into upgrades, we're not at the very start of the game, usually anyway. Maybe your opponent gets a super quick KO. Most of the time there's been a few turns. We're getting more towards the end of the game. So here, sometimes you can afford to just absolutely smash and discard 4 or 5 cards from your hand while doing an extra 4 or 5 damage. If you compare this with a bunch of different draw cards, so you can get a larger hand, you can pull off some monstrous attacks with this. The +3 attack alone is alright, but you could potentially get up to a +7, +8 attack character here. I see this as a game ender. And remember, now we've got Quartermaster, if it gets scrapped too early, you can bring it back. In at number 2, we've got Raider Aimless. Raider Aimless is a very, very good character. It's basically just really hard to get rid of. Now, initially, we see the 8 health, 0 defense, and we're like, meh, not terribly impressed. But then we notice that it's got tough 3. And not all of these Battle Masters have a skill. This one does. Tough 3. If you play this in a blue deck and you're flipping 3 extra cards when you defend, that's pretty gosh darn good, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty gosh darn nice. This is a Battle Master that's going to last on the board for a fair bit longer than most of your Battle Masters. And that's lovely. Means you're able to actually get a couple of attacks off with it. But then when it turns into an upgrade, you again get +3 attack. Yes, you'll notice that the Battle Masters tend to get a base +3 and then do extra stuff. Bit of a theme. But if you flip 3 blue icons, you do 3 damage to the defender. Now, it's got to be the defender. It's got to be the character you are attacking, not a different character. So you might end up with a bit of overkill here. But the fact of the matter is, in a heavy blue deck, there is a very decent chance that you're going to be flipping 3 blue icons, especially if you're playing a bunch of tough. And bearing in mind, right, if you're hitting 3 blue icons and doing 3 damage, that's an extra lightning bolt. Or Bolt of Lightning if you want to use the actual name of the card. And Bolt of Lightning is a star card that doesn't have a battle icon. And if you want to balance a card that you think is good, and you're a game designer, you give it a star, and you don't give it a battle icon, because they are the 2 ways to essentially bring down the power of cards. So, bearing all that in mind, we know this is a great skill. Yes, it's only for a blue deck, but when you're playing a bunch of double blue icon cards anyway, I'm looking at you, Handheld Blaster, also security checkpoint if you want the other one, and you're playing a few white icons in and around there, we're looking at a card which is going to be very hard to take down. And then when it does go down, you're probably sitting there doing 3 damage to your opponent's characters. Yeah, that's pretty good. But there is one of the Battle Masters that really does jump up ahead of the other ones, and it's Private Lionizer. And when I was doing this list, I ran around some of the options here. Like I say, I think the top 5 is the top 5. But outside of that, it really was just Lionizer at number 1. Pretty much anything else I think you could argue with. I think the top 5 are separate from the bottom 3. I think Lionizer is number 1. After that, I think there are arguments to be made. But make no mistake about it, Lionizer is number 1, and I don't think it's particularly close. Yes, the 7 cost is kinda high for a Battlemaster, and yes, the attack of 0 kinda sucks. But you've got bold 4. You're flipping 4 more battle cards when you attack. And if you're playing a particularly aggressive deck, you may well have melee characters using Power Sword, which gives you bold 3. So if you pop a Power Sword onto a Lionizer, you're sitting there with bold 7. That's nuts. No one really cares about your attack of 0 if you're sitting there with bold 7 in an orange deck. You're gonna do a bit of damage. Then Lionizer gets KO'd, it turns into RS Fire Steel Saber, and oh look. Now you get to give somebody else bold 4. Bearing in mind, Power Sword is for melee characters only, and that only gives you bold 3. There is a way to get bold 4. You've got to use Superior Cannon, which can only be played after a tech research, which makes it super awkward. And just in case bold 4 wasn't enough, you also get plan 1, allowing you to put a card from your hand on top of your deck. Private Lionizer is redonk for aggressive decks. We're already seeing a lot of love with Wave 1 Grimlock. Of course, Wave 1 Grimlock is a Dinobot who have got all of their ridiculous bold options like Jaws of Steel and Dino Chomp, but it's also got that great skill whereby if it overkills a character, your opponent has to take the damage onto a different one of their characters. And we've seen it with Wave 1 RC as well, because Wave 1 RC has Pierce equal to her attack. And if you want to build up your attack, going bold 4 in an orange deck is a pretty good way to go about it. Private Lionizer is the best of the Battle Masters, and I don't think it's all that close. But I would very much like to know what you think is the best of the Battle Masters, and hey, give me your own full list from 1 to 8. I would be delighted to see it. Go nuts, ladies and gentlemen. But please do remember to be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about Transformers and a whole bunch of other games. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.